The internet is full of promises about your body. 28-day challenges, before and after photos, new nutrition hacks, and calorie tracking tools. If you have ever fallen down a rabbit hole of fitness and body content, you know how it goes. One video leads to another, one diet plan to the next. Casey Johnston knows this world intimately. She grew up in the 90s in a family where being thin mattered. In college, she started running, counting calories, doing the math of subtracting what she burned from what she ate, with the goal of always getting to a smaller number. But then the same internet that had taught her to measure her self-worth and calories withheld served up something different. A post about weightlifting and about getting stronger and feeding your muscles the food they need to grow. She joined a gym and started to lift and slowly abandoned the call of weighing less. And now, when people search online for the next diet or workout routine, they might find Casey instead. You may have encountered her lifting advice column, Ask a Swole Woman, or her Substack newsletter, She's a Beast. Her voice cuts through a lot of noise, not promising transformation, but offering something else: community, joy, insight into the geeky side of weightlifting. And Casey has a new memoir called A Physical Education: How I Escaped Diet Culture and Gained the Power of Lifting. In it, she describes her life before weightlifting. Her parents divorced when she was a teenager. Her father struggled with alcoholism and died when she was in college. And in her 20s, she describes being in an abusive relationship. When we talked, Casey described how these difficult experiences trained her to please, to disassociate, to hide. Weightlifting changed that for Casey. It taught her how to pay attention.
If anyone had ever said to me, how do you feel about something? I would be like, ew, I don't, feelings like, I don't want to talk about that. But with lifting, this was a sort of backwards inquiry of like, how did that feel, like teaching me in this very slow and subtle way how to monitor myself for how something felt.
This is Death, Sex, and Money, the show from Slate about the things we think about a lot and need to talk about more. I'm Anna Sale. This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. From streaming to shopping, Prime helps you get more out of your passions. So whether you're a fan of true crime or prefer a nail-biting novel from time to time, with services like Prime Video, Amazon Music, and fast free delivery, Prime makes it easy to get more out of whatever you're into or getting into. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to learn more.
Casey Johnston is 38 years old. She lives in LA and has a 6-month-old. She kept lifting during her pregnancy, about half her max.
The most I deadlifted was maybe like 185 pounds, but I also didn't lift at all for maybe the first 14 weeks, I think. I had my first trimester, I felt not a lot of morning sickness, but I was very, very tired.
Mm-hmm. Is your kid ever around when you're weightlifting, like playing in the yard?
He's not really old enough for that yet. He's only 6 months right now. So I have a couple of times had him propped up and just in the stroller and facing me and doing my counting for him. And he likes it. I mean, I'm kind of like, there's so many things that are basically like TV for a young child that you're doing. Like he likes to just watch us in the kitchen and he'll watch me work out, watch me eat, So he's still very much a spectator. And that works for now.
Yeah, that like spectating how one thinks and treats food. Like children learn so much from watching their kids, their family culture around food. If you could take me back to when you were, let's say like when your body was changing during puberty and how you thought about food as a teenager.
Oh, yeah.
What was your family culture around food?
Oh, it was, the thing that sort of guided it the most was the fact that was right around when my parents were getting divorced, either heading into a divorce or in the process of getting divorced. Lasted a really long time, their divorce, 3 years, I think, from the announcement to the completion. But my parents were intense about food and body shape. And my mom has always had her own struggles with food. I remember her restricting herself to like halves of grapefruit for breakfast when that was a thing, the grapefruit diet. And she could get really sort of very suddenly zoom in on something that I was eating, and it would sort of be like this Spanish Inquisition all of a sudden. And
kind of policing, making sure you were maintaining skinniness?
Yeah, or like she always tried to do it in this really circumspect, what she thought was really circumspect way, where she was kind of like, I just want to make sure you're being healthy, but she would also frame it like, I see that you've gained some weight, but it's like that's I guess a neutral way of stating it, but it's the fact of noticing it is not. So there was attempts on her part to have an open discussion, but it was always sort of much more transparent than she thought, what she was thinking and what she was after and what she thought was good or bad. And I sort of resented that, the sort of double talk of those communications with her a lot.
You're one of 4. Where are you in the birth order?
I'm second oldest. I have an older brother and then younger brother, younger sister.
Okay. And would your siblings and you talk about like bodies and food and
no,
what looked good, what looked bad?
No. I mean, we were not very close, I think, as siblings. We didn't talk a lot about a lot in my family. It was a lot of, I think when you have an alcoholic in the family, things become a lot of reading tea leaves and waiting for signals and sort of being on alert and not a lot of open discussion of anything. So that was a dynamic that really governed our relationships to each other and how we related to the world quite a bit.
Casey said her first memories of her father's drinking came when she was around 8, noticing how many martinis he had. She learned to track how full the glass was and what that meant for his behavior. When Casey was 18, she moved from upstate New York to college in New York City.
I was very excited to get into college because I had a dorm room that I was fully in control of, like, with the exception being like a fire drill, but like I could just be ensconced in this space that no one could bother me, and that just like rolled over me like a wave when I got to college, and I just loved the isolation of it.
Casey wanted distance from her parents, from scrutiny about food, from her dad's drinking. She stopped taking his phone calls. She thought there would be time to repair their relationship, but she wanted to engage with her new life. But a few months into her freshman year, she got the news that he had died suddenly.
I think he was a deeply unhappy person, but that he had been especially unhappy lately. My brother had said to me a few months before, almost in an offhanded way, like, why aren't you answering his calls? You're killing him. I think he knew my dad was sad, and he didn't mean it in that literal way, but then it sort of worked out that came to pass. And then I attempted to drop out of school, and the school was like, please don't leave. We'll put you on academic like leave for the semester, and I ended up going back the following year, just missing a semester of school. But I think I was just totally, and as in so many things, for the next several years of my life, I felt very numb, and didn't know how to process any of this.
Mm-hmm. When did you start jogging?
So it was my, like, the depths of junior year. I realized I had gained weight. And for a few months, I went on a 1,200 calorie diet. 1,200 calories was like, you were hearing it everywhere in 2007, 8.
1,200 calories is such few calories.
It's barely any calories. I mean, this was the number everyone was saying. It was kind of like, this is the minimum number of calories you need that will kind of allow you to not die, I guess, was the implication, but maximize your weight loss. So it'll minimize the amount of time also that you need to be dieting. You will just like go on the 1,200 calorie diet, like lose a lot of weight really fast. You'll be done. You can go back to your life. So I was like, that's what I want. I can bear down. I can tolerate 1,200 calories for however many, weeks it would take to get back to the weight, quote unquote, that I wanted to be. But then weeks went by, months went by. It wasn't quite doing what I wanted to. I sort of stalled out on my weight loss and decided that now it was time to layer in exercise, and in order to sort of jumpstart the weight loss process.
Uh-huh. Did you run or talk about this counting your calories? Were you doing it with other people, or was it something you did on your own?
No. This was totally never talked about this to anyone, not in any intentional way, but it was just not a topic of conversation with my friends. I think I flattered myself to think like what's important to me are my thoughts and my brain, and it's sort of beneath me to spend any time thinking about or talking about my body and my relationship to food. It's like these are all just like frivolous things that we all have to deal with, and the less said about them the better. And so I neither had friends where they like to talk about that stuff, and I didn't like to talk about it myself.
When you started running for longer periods of time, what would you think about while you were running?
Sort of once I was into it and I was running, 8 or 9 miles at a stretch.
I think the reason I ask you is because the way you describe it is so joyless. Like, yes. I'm like, how did she sustain the time?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I was able to get myself psyched enough about the idea of the accomplishment of running a 10K and then running comes after a 10K, 15K, and then a half marathon. So I think I sort of Stockholm syndromed my way into it, where I was like, this is accomplishing something. And it's just, maybe it's sustained entirely by the thought of, okay, after this, I can justify having, a couple more 100 calories that I've burned. That's going to give me a little bit of wiggle room in my diet. So as much as I didn't want to eat back the food, because that was the definition of wasting the workout, quote unquote, to eat too much after. But I could justify like an additional few cookies. And that was like the thing I think that kept me going through all those miles a lot of the time.
It'll give you permission to treat yourself. Mm-hmm. Is it right for me to have the impression that from the time that you're 20 up until sort of your 26, 27, like every day you're kind of tracking your calories, you're tracking your movement, you have an awareness of how many calories you've burned versus how much you've eaten. Is that right?
That's right.
And is it like physical tracking, like you're doing it with your phone, you're doing it, writing it down?
I think for me, it was all mental math. I did not write anything down. It was kind of, when it's 1,200 calories, like you really don't have to keep track of that many. That's like a bowl of cereal, piece of toast with peanut butter, and like that goes quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you think back on that time, do you feel like how do you think about yourself? It sounds like very intense and private, and sort of an incredible focus on food and exercise, and also kind of a shrinking away. So you have just kind of, this is like your own thing. Mm-hmm. You're managing this, and you're kind of shrunk away from other things.
I hesitate to say private just because I didn't feel a lot of deliberateness about the hiding of it, but it was definitely isolating that I was having this experience, and I didn't even know. I mean, so many things in this book and in my life are shaped by not having a good foundation or set of experiences to grade what I'm doing against. It's like, this has just sort of always been how I live life, is like super tense, very hypervigilant, like very, monitoring, and like not talking to anybody about anything, not opening up. It's just like, so that's like how I thought people are and were. And I, like, if someone said to me like, you're a tough nut to crack, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know. What does that even mean? But it was true. I just had nothing to really compare it to. I had no other experience to compare any of this to.
Coming up, Casey finds a post on the internet that changes the course of her life. So are you home alone when you see this Reddit post?
Yes. So I was just at home at night. I had gotten home from being out with my friends, and scrolling, saw it, clicked on it, and was like, mind blown.
This episode with Casey is about one version of what we do to feel more comfortable living in our bodies while encountering experiences or relationships or news that brings us distress. I also talked about that this week with writer Sarah Miller. A few years back, she was struggling with depression in a very intense way after wildfires struck near her home in Northern California. She couldn't shake feelings of heaviness and despair. And she wrote about what she did next in a wild, funny, and spiritually arresting essay in the literary magazine N+1. The piece is called Pirates of the Ayahuasca. And in this week's Slate Plus drop, she and I talk about her decision to travel to Peru and her experiences with ayahuasca and with her fellow travelers looking for a shift.
I knew a lot of people would do ayahuasca to just be like, well, I communed with nature, or I don't know, I need to heal myself. And, not that I am psychologically like more sound than the next guy, but I was just sort of like past that. I was like, I don't want to like have a better body image, or like get along with my parents better, or figure out like why I'm so unhappy about like getting bullied when I was in high school. I mean, things I could all, I could certainly like do work on, but it wasn't about that for me. It was just about like still like really developing a renewed interest in being alive.
You can hear about Sarah's journey and her psychedelic journeys if you are a Slate Plus member. You can sign up right in Apple Podcasts or in Spotify on the Death, Sex, and Money show page, or just go to slate.com/DSM Plus. And once you are a Slate Plus member, in addition to these extra conversations like the one I had with Sarah, Slate Plus members can also listen to all Slate podcasts ad-free. So get it. And after our episode last week with Adonis, the New York City mover, some of you have been telling us about big moves you are undertaking this season. You sent voice memos to deathsexmoney@slate.com. Some of yours are have-to moves, and others are moves where you've just run out of fuel to stay where you are.
I moved to the U.S. 11 years ago, and I've been in New York for 8 of those years. And I wanted to make it work so badly. And I tried really hard, and I gave it my all. But I have come to the conclusion that New York doesn't love me.
On the next episode, hear from more of your fellow listeners about what's making them pack up and leave for somewhere new. And I catch up with Heidi Reinberg, whom I first interviewed in one of the very first episodes of Death, Sex, and Money years ago, when she was priced out of her apartment in a Brooklyn neighborhood that she loved. More than a decade later, she has left and returned and left again. But those neighbors, they're still family.
One of the funniest things to me is my mom is always saying to us, you don't know what family is. Like when I was growing up, we had family. And it's like, well, I do. That to me is what home is. It's not the apartment. It's not the structure. It is being around these people that I know will have my back.
Now, something I get a break from during the weeks of summer vacation from school is the oppressiveness of weeknight dinner planning. Something about the longer days and lots of picnics makes meal planning less intense for me. But you know what? As my kids head off to school again, that low-level panic about what we will eat, it's back. But imagine having your weekly cart filled for you with personalized picks, then shipped right to your door. This too can be yours with Hungry Root. My Hungry Root boxes feel like a little gift to myself. I get a few weeknight meals with ingredients my whole family will eat, along with some grab-and-go snacks to keep hangry roots from sprouting. Hungry Root takes the stress out of grocery shopping by filling your cart with personalized selections that get smarter with every order. Hungry Root even helps you save by reducing food waste and avoiding impulse grocery buys. Hungry Root also holds all its food to high standards, screening out over 200 additives like high fructose corn syrup, preservatives, and artificial sweeteners. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/DSM and use code DSM. That's hungryroot.com/DSM, code DSM to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/DSM, code DSM. Everyone can use a little help to shape the direction of their lives, from fitness routines to mental resilience or navigating personal goals to tackling burnout. That's what the Life Kit podcast from NPR is here to do. If you are looking to move with more intention or just need thoughtful guidance on living better, Life Kit delivers strategies to help you make meaningful, sustainable change. And they do it with real stories, relevant insights, and clear takeaways to help you meet large and small decision-making moments with confidence and clarity. Trusted voices and expert advice can help you take the next step, however big or small. So listen to Life Kit to hear thoughtful conversations that unpack the emotional and practical side of personal wellness, along with actionable guidance you can actually use. No fluff, no judgment. Get help tackling common issues like relationships, finances, parenting, and your career. Life Kit is not just another podcast about self-improvement. It's about understanding how to live a little better starting now. Listen now to the Life Kit podcast from NPR. As the summer season winds down, refreshing your wardrobe with staple pieces for the season ahead is essential. And Quince nails it with luxe essentials that feel effortless and look polished. Perfect for layering and mixing. You'll find yourself reaching for them again and again. Like I've been wearing this new button-down blouse from Quince. It's organic cotton gauze fabric. It somehow feels both airy and cozy, like the perfect late summer light blanket. I have it in black. The cut is boxy. The neck is this nice V shape, and it's just the silhouette that works when I wear high-waisted wide leg pants. Why not go over to quince.com/DSM to see if there's something that would freshen up your look? Because the best part, everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. They do it by working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middlemen. Quince gives you luxury without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. Elevate your fall wardrobe essentials with Quince. Go to quince.com/DSM for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/DSM to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DSM. This is Death, Sex, and Money from Slate. I'm Anna Sale. Of all the runs that Casey Johnston endured, the one she hated the most was a half marathon in 2014. She was 26. It was the dead of winter. And afterwards, she struggled to eat breakfast, worried about wasting the burned calories, as she saw it then.
It's the dead of winter, 5 a.m. in Central Park, and snowy and below freezing, and I'm wearing several layers of clothes, and I'm just like, this is not it. I have gone down, like, one of those moments where you look up and it's just like, maybe I was having some fun, or this was interesting and I wanted to see where it went, or I thought everything was going okay, but then it's kind of like, I'm not getting what I wanted out of this. I do not want to be here. I'm no longer sort of excited about or even feel like I deserve, quote unquote, the reward that comes with this. So it's not earning me the reward that I want. So what am I doing?
One night around this time, Casey came home from a party and scrolled around on the internet. She saw a Reddit post. It was a before and after picture from a user who had recently started lifting. What struck Casey was how the woman talked about food and the less than grueling description of her workout.
She had done it for only 6 months, but she said, I'm eating twice as many calories as I was eating at the time. And she was only working out 3 times a week and only for like 30 minutes. And the workouts were super simple. And she had before and after photos of herself, which were not that different. But that was almost sort of the point to me, was that, like, I had always been told lifting weights will make you bulky. And here she was, not only not bulky, but she looked kind of more, as we would say, toned in those days. And I was just like, why is she getting everything that I want? And she was also not losing weight. Her weight had stayed the same. I was like, you don't need to lose weight in order for this to happen? Like, and you can eat that much? And I was just like, how is this possible? I had no concept of how any of those things could relate to each other. I only knew eat as little as possible or work out as much as possible and just hope that those things will eventually yield a smaller body.
Well, it's just like such an interesting example of, like, you built your life so much around this information that you had picked up, like a little scavenger hunt, trying to, how do I live in a body? How do I look the way that people tell me I'm supposed to look? What am I supposed to eat?
Yep.
And then there's this other thing you click on, and it's this completely different paradigm. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, this could be something else to try.
Yes, so scavenge is such a good word. I was truly just scavenging for the answers of what is the right way for all of these pieces to fit together. Although I think you could argue, and I get a little bit more into this, where it's like I had read articles in magazines also where it was a woman who had gotten into, she was like, I used to diet and I hated myself, and then I started, volunteer fire rescue, and then I just, exploded into a cloud of love and light for my body, and I don't even I don't own any mirrors, and I eat whatever I want, and everything's great, and you can do it too. And I would just be like, that is not as compelling to me as I guess magazine editors thought that it would be. And it felt those pieces were always meant to offset like all of the content that was like fruits for weight loss and all of these like just the opposite end of the spectrum. And then they had these stories that were all like supposed to be affirming, but I felt they were just so far off of the track of where I was. It's like, you just want me to give up everything and do everything. You want me to give up everything and just like forget about that there is dieting, and forget that exercise is for weight loss, and just forget that anyone cares what I look like. And I can't forget all of those things. they're all important as I understand. You can't say with most of the magazine that it's important and then have one story that say it's not important and expect me to believe the one story that, So I forget even where we were going with this.
I think what you're saying is like what you're saying is in this case, there was the catnip of your body can look the way you want it to look.
Yeah.
But here's this different way to do it.
It found me in this right moment, this post, but it also had enough resonance with my understanding of food and exercise or it seemed different enough and attendant to those things without being like, oh, just like, it doesn't matter how anyone looks and it doesn't matter what anyone eats. And it was not this anarchic thing. It was like, oh, there's a different structure that you're not aware of here. These things do have a relationship to each other, and it's different than what you've been told.
Casey decided to look for a gym where she could try out lifting. She found one around the corner. It was called Richie's.
Bars on the windows, like boards haphazardly nailed together, all of the equipment, like the stuffing's coming out and just strewn everywhere, and there's piles of dust on everything, and half the lights are off, and all of the TVs are broken in some way, and it's full of people, like just packed with people during the busiest gym hours.
Mostly men?
Mostly men, huge men who are like, the gym was their thing, just like guys slamming weights, yelling at each other, and just extremely loud, plates banging, really loud music. And I was just like, this is like the scariest if you were to create in a lab the scariest possible version of a gym for me at that time, it would have been exactly like Richie's. So but the thing was that Richie's was, the cost varied a little bit depending on if you paid for 6 months at a time or whatever, but it was like between $12 and $25 a month.
Wow.
And I knew, I found out through looking at the pictures on Google Maps or whatever that they had the equipment that I needed too, which like a Planet Fitness would not.
You did some
yes
internet surveillance ahead
of a gym 1 block away from me.
Okay.
That's who I am. That's like that's like the best way of summing up me as a person, especially at that time. Like that was what my relationship was to the world. So
you walk in, and how did you first learn? To me, such an intimidating thing is, how do I move my body holding what thing so I do the right thing and not injure myself? How did you start to educate yourself?
Yeah. I practiced at home. I had a book. There was a book that I found through the same subreddit called Starting Strength. That's very narrow but deep in terms of it's describing basically like 5 different lifting movements, but in incredible detail. I think there's 100 pages on squatting alone. And
wait, this is when you start squatting with the Swiffer handle above
in my apartment. I practiced a lot in my apartment. So by the time I did actually step into this gym and there was everybody moving everywhere, I did have a sort of sense of what I was supposed to do. But it did entirely go out the window when I went, and it was like, okay, well, the equipment you wanted to use is someone else is using it. So I was like, okay, great. So now I have no idea what to do. So I had to kind of patch together a workout. My first time at the gym was not very successful, but I think my expectations were also, now I would say they were high, but even starting strength, quote unquote, I say starting, but it presumes that you can lift a barbell, which is 45 pounds. And I could not lift even close to that amount. So I had to figure out a way that I could ramp myself up to the barbell.
I'm picturing a body that has eaten 1,200 calories a day for many years and done a lot of cardio. Like when you remember just what your like arms felt like and looked like when you were first trying to figure out how to lift a heavy barbell, like what did they look like?
Yeah, so one of the things that was described in maybe this, I think it was more generally in this Reddit where I found this post, was the idea of having dieted one's muscle all away. At that time, I wouldn't use this term, but it was the term that describes a body from that state. It was, people would say, skinny fat, where you were perhaps a low body weight, but you had almost no muscle mass because you had dieted too much. And there's a sort of way that you can yo-yo diet, cycling from eating too little and then rebounding, and you sort of end up exchanging your body fat or your muscle mass for body fat. You might weigh the same, but you have lost all of your muscle tone. I didn't even know that could happen because I thought muscle was just there and it was waiting to be like dieted away hard. You diet it hard enough and the muscle shows up through your skin. But I was just like, when I learned of this concept and I looked at myself in the mirror, I was like, oh, I am like, there's nothing kind of left. There's nothing under the surface of my arms. I'm just like noodles, you know? Mm-hmm. So yeah, there was not a lot to put behind the weightlifting by the time I was trying to pursue it.
And I don't want to skip over the part where you're in your apartment alone, reading a book, looking at the internet, trying to figure out how to move your body. It's so sweet and also so dorky.
Yes. Oh, yes. No, I own that. Yeah. It's very, I mean, as you're describing, I was kind of, this is very like buying there's a Merlin Mann expression, buying a chair about jogging, where it's like you're reading a book, you're looking up on the internet instead of just going and doing, and that, like, just trying it. And that was the idea of trying something was, I was like, I don't want to try anything that I don't know I don't have like a 99% success rate at. And that was another real aspect of my personality. I was really trying to be prepared for every possible eventuality before I even stepped through the door.
I share that personality trait. That's why it's helpful to read a memoir about becoming a weightlifter.
Okay, good.
I understand the emotional journey now.
Good.
I'm prepared. Do you know what does not belong in epic summer plans? Getting burned by your old wireless bill. That's why you should try to switch to Mint Mobile. Even Slate's president, Charlie Kammer, is using Mint Mobile, and he says more people should be trying this out. He found it really easy to switch providers. The SIM card was shipped to his home. They let him use his existing phone, and he didn't even have to change his phone number. He tried the $15 a month deal for unlimited talk and text over their 5G network at literally a fraction of what he was paying with someone else. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. So this year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/DSM. That's mintmobile.com/DSM. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Feeling better in your body should not be a full-time job. If you are looking for extra support for your weight loss goals, try Hers expert-guided online care. Hers is transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans. Here's how it works. They connect you with a medical provider who will work with you to determine the best treatment option for you. If prescribed, you can get medication as part of a doctor-developed program, complete with ongoing care, check-ins, dosage, and medication adjustments, plus 24/7 online support at no additional cost. Weight loss by Hers is realistic, not restrictive, and affordable. Hers provides access to both oral medication kits and GLP-1 injectable options. Whether you're looking to lose weight or grow thicker, fuller hair, or find relief from anxiety, Hers has you covered. Visit forhers.com/DSM to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's forhers.com/DSM. forhers.com/DSM. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not approved or reviewed for safety, effectiveness, or quality by the FDA. Prescription required. See website for full details, important safety information, and restrictions. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased. Do you remember when you first started noticing things that you liked about weightlifting that were pleasant, enjoyable even? Like what were the first things you noticed?
Yeah. Well, the first thing was the workout. I mean, I knew in an abstract way, having read about it, that when you do the workouts, you do like 5 reps at a time and then you rest for a minute and then do another 5 reps, rest for a minute, another 5 reps. You're done with that movement. I was like, that's the simplest, easiest sounding workout I've ever heard of. Any strength workout I had ever heard of before that was like, you do like 8 different movements. You do 3 sets of like 20 reps of all of them. So you're doing hundreds and hundreds of reps for forever. And the workout that I had landed on here was you do 3 movements per workout, 3 sets of 5 reps each. So it's like less than 45 reps. You're done. And go on and live your life. And you're resting in there, where I was used to like workouts being like you're running for like an hour and you don't stop for the whole hour. So this workout style was very welcome. I was into that immediately. And then
just to break in there, like how did that pace of output, like you're not having to just talk to yourself for 45 minutes straight to keep running. Mm-hmm. Like what did you notice about the way that changed your internal monologue?
Yeah. So I had always read and heard everyone was like, running so great, you get like time to think and you're having your revelations. And I would be like, I guess. And then I would get out there and it would just be sort of like more time to worry or like ruminate in the way that I did about all different things. Then when I got into lifting, I really liked it also because when I was doing the reps, I had to be like totally focused because it took a lot of kind of mental energy to be trying to move all your body parts in the right way relative to each other. And then you stop and then you're saying, okay, how did that feel? Was that too light? Was it too heavy? Do I feel like my form was okay? Or can I do something differently, move my feet a little more in this direction? There was like a check-in with myself of like, what was that like? And that became this thing of like awareness of how I felt in the real world as well, which I was never expecting to be a product of all of this.
Mm-hmm. So that the pace, the amount of time, the way you did it worked for you. And tell me what else you liked about it.
I found it interesting, at least, that when I finished a workout, I was really used to being hungry. Being hungry was like a fact of my existence, daily existence for a very long time, and managing the hunger, denying the hunger, like feeling the hunger. And so I knew what hungry felt like, but there was a very different hunger that emerged once I finished a lifting workout where I got done and I was like, okay, I didn't sweat. I didn't breathe hard. Like that didn't take very long. I don't feel anything. Then I felt this like hunger inside of me that I was like, oh, I gotta eat. And it was not the same type of hunger. It was like a visceral, like it's hard to, I tried to describe it in the book in terms of like Vikings to pounding the table for food, but it was a different feeling that your body needs to be sort of refueled after this.
It's like an
workout.
appetite.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, I didn't know I could feel like that's a new feeling. Like how many new feelings do you get as you think you've done everything at 27 years old, and then you lift weights and then you find out there's new experiences out there. So I thought that was really cool. And I started the lifting weights did start to pay off pretty quickly in real life because in real life, you never like really lift anything really heavy, but there's a lot of things that are 20 pounds, 40 pounds. That's like not a very manageable amount of weight for somebody who doesn't work out in that way. Like my biggest enemy was the box of cat litter, and it weighed 40 pounds, this box. So I would buy it and lug it home, and I felt like I could barely get it up the stairs, and then I could barely pour it into the box without it spilling everywhere. But 40 pounds when you're lifting weights, you get to that amount pretty quickly. If you're adding, the way it works is you add a little bit of weight every time you go back to the gym. So after 8 sessions, you're theoretically able to lift 40 pounds. So it was like all of a sudden, I not only have the kind of right body mechanics to manage an object like this, but it feels so much lighter, and I can like sort of bend down and pick stuff up, and I'm doing it the right way instead of like lurching over at my lower back and trying to grab things and having it hurt. I'm like, I have a different set of skills available to me now.
You described for years thinking that there was this calculation you could do about the way you were supposed to take care of your body by limiting what you put in it and maximizing what you put out of it as far as energy spent. What did you learn about how you needed to move your body and feed your body in order to get stronger?
Mm-hmm. So speaking of the idea that you could diet your muscle away, what I learned was that I could rebuild my muscle. This was like a particularly good thing for somebody who's been dieting semi-unsuccessfully for years. That it is possible. Your body has a built-in process for building muscle. It's good at building muscle. It just needs the basic inputs of the right amount of training and the right style. The weights need to be heavy enough to cause the right amount of muscle damage that can then be repaired when you give your body enough protein and food, and you need carbs for energy and fats for fuel and to facilitate all the other biological processes in there. Mm-hmm. But this idea that food could affect my body in a constructive way that didn't have to do with losing weight was a novel concept to me. Like I had always heard like, oh, you can live on 2,000 calories a day. Most people should be eating 2,000 calories a day or whatever. And I was like, that's a literal like in your dreams amount of calories to be eating. Like I will gain weight if I eat that much. But when I started lifting weights, I was eating a little more than that. And but with the maybe right configuration of food, that all went toward rebuilding the functionality of my body. And I had never thought about things that way.
Well, also, like in addition to like allowing yourself to appreciate food for what it gives you, just what you said about the way that muscle building works, which is you have to go in and push yourself beyond what you're capable of in that moment, give your body rest, and then your body is going to show up and figure out how to be strong enough for you to do that thing that you tried to do the day before. Your muscles are you have to rupture what you think is possible, and then your body's going to repair and be stronger, which is such a different metaphor than I need to control and restrict and make sure I don't get out of hand here so that I am exactly how I want to be in the world.
Right.
You know?
I think that the way I treated myself, feels like an obvious reflection of the way that I was treated in my family. And I think the way that women are treated on a societal level, where it's like you require all of this management and scrutiny and control, and you can't be trusted with anything. We got to keep an eye on you every single second. Anything that you do could go off the rails in a way none of us can predict. So you really need to be monitored. Whereas this other way of thinking about my body that was shaped by lifting had so much more trust to it, I felt, where it was like, you don't need to be so controlled or restricted or held back from all of these tools. You can have all of these things, and you can trust that they will work together, that you will sort of benefit from them without needing to bear all of the scrutiny.
Looking back now, Casey sees that the way she was restricting and controlling herself was also evident in her relationships. In her 20s, she was in an abusive relationship. He was jealous and sensitive. If Casey put on lipstick or took a selfie, he would accuse her of cheating, asking her who she was trying to look good for. It was scary at times, and also familiar. When she was young, with her dad's drinking, she says the whole family orbited around his mood.
It was like my dad really ran the show. Everything we did was reactive to him and his like whims and what he thought was funny or what he thought was important or what made him angry. And I think that played out further with my relationship with how I saw men, how I was responsive to men. I found myself, not all of a sudden, but I mean, I think a lot of abusive relationships happen this way, where it's like you start dating somebody, they seem normal. Like most abusive people seem normal or even seem really nice to the people who are not in relationships with them. They're like, wow, they're great. They're so charming. They're dynamic and friendly and helpful and all these things. And then, but what I learned was that abusive situations are not defined by the norm of your interactions. They're defined by basically someone's worst behavior. What do they do when you do make them angry, when they are upset with you? You know, do they act like a responsible adult who's in control of their feelings, or do they blame you and make you scrutinize you, like never won't leave you alone, won't let you sleep for the number of like questions that they're asking you about what you were thinking when you did something. And so I found myself in this relationship that I sort of knew wasn't going well, but it felt like that was a tiny piece of the relationship. And I felt like if we could just figure out that piece, if we could just crack the code of like, why are things going left in these certain moments, then we can have a great relationship. We can just enjoy the rest of the relationship that's going well. And then I read a book about abusive relationships. It's like got to be the number one book about this topic. But
which was yours?
This was Why Does He Do That? Another one is The Gift of Fear, which I've never read, but I just bought and I'm going to read. But yes, this book explained basically everything I just said about the dynamics of abuse. And that was a real kind of wake-up call for me in terms of how am I relating to people? You know, I thought that this was all kind of how it's supposed to work, but I've never really given it a lot of deliberate thought. And now I think things could go really badly, and I should reflect a little more on how I end up here.
Were you weightlifting when that relationship ended?
No, I was still running, and I was sort of like, toward the end of it, I had seen this post about lifting, and I was like, that's interesting. Don't feel ready to jump in, but I'm very intrigued. And then I started to have, running started to go badly. I had a calf injury that was aggravated by running, and I had to sort of stop running. And then I was like, maybe it's time to try this lifting thing. And that was right around when the relationship ended.
How did you meet your partner?
Tinder. Tinder, but then we turned out to know some people in common. So that's like, I've had a lot of like successful things happen that way, where it's like, it's not a truly random person.
It's kind of this interesting like corollary, like you got to try it out on the internet first, see how it felt, and then you saw each other in person where you had IRL connections. Interesting. So while you're like digging into lifting,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think he didn't really know what to think of it either. People assume certain things that you like want to be a bodybuilder and you want to like compete on a stage and be all greased up. And, but that was not my relationship with it. And I didn't know before I got into it that you could have other relationships with lifting weights. But I think he thought it was cool, but also was similarly unaware of how that could take shape.
I just have one more question, and it's the scene that I just love from your book. You describe looking in a full-length mirror and noticing where your body is strong. And do you remember like the metaphor that you come up with for what you look like and what you like about it? Do you remember what you compare yourself to?
Is it a big, beautiful horse?
Yes. A powerful horse. Like,
yeah.
And I just, when you said horse, I pictured, of course, like the rippling of the muscles of a horse that's working hard. Like they are strong. And looking into a full-length mirror and thinking, I look like a strong horse sounds so different from how you looked and what you wanted for yourself as a teenager and as a very young woman.
Yeah.
And do you think of that as just this like sort of gradual transformation, or you got strong enough, you looked at yourself through different eyes and you wanted something different? Was that like a day that happened?
I would say it was gradual, but mostly because it was not necessarily an appearance thing, although there is obviously interplay there. Like horses are very muscular looking, but I also think of it as like horses are a good example of an animal where it feels like their physicality is so integral to the way they relate to the world and experience things. They're like in their bodies. And people in general think of our bodies or ourselves as our brains, and that our bodies are just sort of these like inconvenient meat sacks rather than how we experience the world. I think I realized after weightlifting that I had been building up and having this relationship with the world and myself where it's like, oh, I feel all this connection that has been built here, and I'm really living in myself and in the world in a different way. That felt more like being a horse in my mind.
That is Casey Johnston. Her new memoir is called A Physical Education: How I Escaped Diet Culture and Gained the Power of Lifting. It's out now. Casey also writes a Substack newsletter, She's a Beast, and we've linked to that in our show notes. I do not lift with barbells, but I do like doing some push-ups. You can check out my form on Instagram at DeathSexMoney. And if you want to send us some photos of what you do when you're feeling strong and like you're taking care of your body, please share and tag us. This episode was produced by Zoe Azulay. The rest of the Death, Sex, and Money show team includes Andrew Dunn and Cameron Drews. Daisy Rosario is our senior supervising producer. Mia Lobel is head of podcast at Slate, and Hillary Fry is Slate's editor-in-chief. You can support the production of our show by becoming a member of Slate Plus. You get bonus episodes of Death, Sex, and Money and other Slate shows like Decoder Ring and How To. And you also get to listen to Slate's full podcast catalog ad-free. You can subscribe directly from the Death, Sex, and Money show page on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or visit slate.com/DSM Plus to get access wherever you listen. Our theme music is by the Reverend John DeLure and Steve Lewis. If you are new to our show, welcome. We're glad you're here. You can find us and follow us on Instagram at DeathSexMoney. And I write a weekly newsletter. You can subscribe at annasale.substack.com. And you can reach us anytime with voice memos, pep talks, questions, or critiques at our email address, deathsexmoney@slate.com. We love hearing from you. Casey told me that after her first few months of lifting and being secretive about it, she decided to casually mention her new hobby at a party one night, and that led to rounds and rounds of arm wrestling, which Casey dominated.
So I beat one guy, and then another guy wants to try, and I beat him, and then I beat a third man. And guys are used to being able to beat everybody at arm wrestling, but then it's like, I've been lifting weights, they've been doing nothing since college. So it's like, someday they'll write their book about like, I thought I was strong, and then a girl beat me at arm wrestling, and I had to have a whole spiral.
I'm Anna Sale, and this is Death, Sex, and Money from Slate.